Okay, Vinith sir, shall we start?
തുടങ്ങാം.
Okay. Sumi teacher.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
A very
So
pleasant
good evening.
evening to all.
I will
Let me start,
no
sir.
no. Please wait. Please wait.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the technical session of the National Faculty Development Program, jointly organized by the IQAC and Research Committee of SSV College and the Research Committee of Government College Tripura. Let me invite Srimati Sumi K.S., Assistant Professor in Economics, SSV College, Valayancherangara, to welcome the resource person, Dr. Vinith sir. Please, Sumi.
A pleasant evening to all. I am extremely happy to welcome Dr. Vineet sir to the third session of our FDP on research methodology. I know all are eagerly waiting for the session. Without much introduction, I welcome Vineet sir to handle the session. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Teresa. Respected organizers, dear friends and participants. Let me share my screen. So yesterday we got an understanding of how can you get a lot of data for reviewing literature from different sources. So today we can go through the basic measurement and scaling technique in cross-sectional data design. We should also understand how we can frame a questionnaire without much difficulty. The agenda for the day would be an introduction to the concept of measurement and scaling, the type of scales that we normally come across in a cross-sectional design, and a sample questionnaire. So not only one, we will be discussing different models. In fact, rather than questionnaires, that would be one I will be discussing. And for the purpose of people who want to create a questionnaire, I would be interested to share you the different conceptual models with which you can frame your questionnaire. So what is measurement? Measurement means assigning numbers or other symbols to characteristics of objects according to certain pre-specified rules. There exists a one-to-one correspondence. That is, suppose you are preparing data for gender. We mark it as 1 for male, 2 for female, 3 for transgender, etc. What happens with that 1, 2, 3? It is a one-to-one correspondence. 1 means this, 2 means this. So you are corresponding that particular code to that particular data. So that variable is measured with that correspondence. In fact, at the other level, we have when you learn SPSS, you might learn about correspondence analysis also. In SPSS as well as R, we do such an analysis. So correspondence is a very important feature in measurement. Second, the rules for assigning numbers should be standardized and applied uniformly. That is, you are not supposed to change the rules of providing this number between the study. Sometimes some people do first collect some data with a particular measurement. Later, they change the tool of measurement. Then at the end, you will have to be actually worrying and troubling to fit the data. So anyway, to be systematic, it should not be changed. Rules must not change over objects over time. We will be having some order rules, order properties. It will not and shall not change during the course of the total study. And what is scaling then? Scaling involves creating a continuum upon which measured objects can be located. For the most common scale we come across is the Likkert's summated scale, right? The 5-point scale is very common to us. Strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. Very much common to us, very much close to us. So that is a 5-point range or a continuum given, and the answer can be located in those 5 points. Same way, consider an example of an attitude scale from 1 to 10. Each respondent is assigned a number from 1 to 10. They are given with that freedom. They will be putting it like 1 to 10, and that is the measurement. Measurement is the actual assignment of a number from 1 to 10 for each respondent. And scaling is the process of placing the respondents on a continuum with respect to their attitude towards a particular concept. So scaling is normally done that it gives a frame, or it gives the options to which data can be measured. And why do we use numbers? This has been my doubt in the initial days. This is the answer, but practically now we don't need numbers. We can even analyze text. There are softwares packages, there are content analysis methods, and there are more and more softwares are getting up and away, even which can analyze words, because AI is such powerful. But anyway, we are not using much of AI nowadays at the present level of our research. We use the software packages which use number codes. So why numbers are used? First, numbers permit statistical analysis. We may be coding Likert scale as 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or +2, +1, 0, -1, -2. Both methods are okay, no problem. But 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is easy to feed in data. And that is why we use it more. Instead of having a neutral at 0, we are having the neutral at 3. That's the only difference. So anyway, it permits statistical analysis. So convenience is also important. Second, numbers facilitate the communication of measurement rules and results. As I said, if it's regarding an agreement to some particular statement, if the value is greater than the neutral value, we can say that there is some positive perception or a positive agreement. If the value is less than the neutral value, we can say that there is some sort of negativity. And if you compare two different values, then also you can say that one is greater and the other is inferior. So numbers facilitate this advantage. One, it permits statistical analysis. Two, it facilitates communication. And basically, when you try to measure things, 4 features or characteristics are required. Some data have all these 4 features, and some data has only lesser. The first feature is the whatever you use to measure or put the data, it should describe the situation or data. Description. So we put gender 1 for male, 2 for female. So 1 means male, 2 means female, fine. 3 means others, very fine. So it is description. The data is descriptive. Second characteristic is that the order property. Does this 1, 2, 3 have a relevance in their order? Is male superior than female, and even the female is superior than TG or others? Or otherwise, is 3 superior than the others? Actually, when we say for some data, the order is not important, and for some data, the order is important. So that is a feature. Third, if the order is important, is the distance between the two values equal? That is the first preference, second preference, third preference, or the first rank, second rank, third rank. The difference between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, are they equal or relatively equal? Sometimes it may be, sometimes it will not be. So that is yet another feature. And at the highest extreme, do we have a meaningful zero position or a neutral position? Do we have a meaningful origin, which may be 0, or a neutral value which we define? Neutral values we can define. It should be common. So these are the 4 characteristics: description, order, distance, and origin. Based on these 4 things, we have basically in books we have 4 kind of measurements: the nominal variable, the ordinal variable, the interval measurement, and the ratio. Nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, and the ratio. As you can see, nominal is as good as the chest number of the runners. The runner 2, 6, and 11 finished. That's all. 3 out of the total number of people finished. You can count it, and sometimes you can find a percentage also. Basically, that it ends with that. So you want just categorize 3 finished and others not finished, 3 male and 7 female, like that, or 3 female and 7 male, whatever. So what happens is it is used just for classification or categorization. Second, it is something related to the rank order of winners when the order is important: first place, second place, third place. But as I said, the difference between first and second and third need not be equal. It may be widely different also, because it is only a ordinal data. At the third level, we assume the interval between different values to be equal. So that is where a performance rating scale is given as an example. And when we come to the final data, the normal data, it is pure data. For example, our age in years, our number of schooling, that is the education, number of schooling, not the level of education, how many numbers of years you have spent in your formal education. Such data, what is your income, monthly income, what is your monthly spending? When you ask for the real information, plain information, that becomes ratio data which have a meaningful 0. Of course, you can also ask for the rating scales, which is actually an interval scale, assumed to be an interval scale. But even though there is a high questionable issue, because the difference between strongly agree and the difference between agree and neutral need not be the same. So that is why if it is used in singular, just one question is asked, you treat it as ordinal data. But when it is asked in a constructor format, that is, you're asking 3 or 4 or even more statements and getting the values and taking an average, then it is scale data. When you come to statistical packages, we have normally nominal data, ordinal data, and scale data. Interval and ratio are going together. We take it as scale data. And this nominal and ordinal is otherwise called as categorical data, or categorical variables. And the interval and ratio is together as already called as scale data, otherwise called as metric data. METRIC, metric data. So this is what happens with the classification. In the nominal scale, it is used for naming and categorizing. In the ordinal scale, we use it for ranking also. In the interval and ratio level, we assume the data to be continuous and more mathematical functions are used. Others, for nominal and ordinal, we don't use much of it. So, what are the different scaling techniques available basically in a social science background? And again, with a commerce or management in particular, we can use comparative scales and non-comparative scales. These are mostly used in psychological researches. Comparison and non-comparison. When you have something to compare with, you call it a comparative scale, in which the first method is paired comparison. This is a comparison between a few brands of shampoos, and in which if the column has 1, which means that column is preferred over the row. That is, Zirmac is preferred over Finesse and Vidal Sassoon and Pert, whereas it is not preferred over Head and Shoulders. When it comes to Head and Shoulders is preferred over Zirmac. So if you when you take the assessment, Head and Shoulders is preferred over all the other 4 brands, whereas Zirmac is preferred over 3 other brands, but not against Head and Shoulders. So this is the basic assessment. What happens with a paired comparison? But we know that there is an even simpler method. You can simply ask them to rank order the data. You just give the option and ask them to rank. The most simple method. So that is why we don't use the other one much. Actually, in our practical researches, we use open-ended questions, rank order questions, rating questions, and Likert scales more. The other ones are not much used. So rank order is always used. So for preference, importance, etc. Constantism scaling is yet another example of in-depth assessments where people are asked to give weight to different aspects. In which this survey, it was found that segment 1, or the person on the segment 1, attributed maximum weightage to price of the detergent. Whereas in segment 2, the maximum weightage is for cleaning power. And whereas in segment 3, the analyst will be confused. There is no actual real weightage. They just spread across everything and negligent to price. So such an assessment can also be done, provided you have sufficient time. We don't have such time. Q-sort and other procedures, again, you will be asking people to group their response into different piles. These are done. These are historical methods used in qualitative as well as quantitative approaches. And here we are actually doing more on quantitative. But as I said, we have better methods. This is the most celebrated tool that we use in research, that is Likert scale, Likert summated scale. In its final form, it has a 5 or 7 point scale. Even 9 point is also visible in our questionnaires. But when it comes to Google Forms, it is better that we put it into 5 point scale, because it is not visible in the screen. When it is not fully visible in the screen, the genuineness of the answers is also in trouble. Already Google Form genuineness is also in trouble. Again, when it is not comfortable to the person who is reading it, absolute trouble welcomes you. So we need that. So 5 point scale is normally used to allow the individual to express how much they agree or disagree with a particular statement. And you don't always ask agreement, you don't ask many other adjectives. And what happens with this? Why 5 or 7? Because we should have a meaningful neutral value in the middle. So a scale is always balanced when it is equal. So 3 is in the middle, 4 and 5 to this side, and 2 and 1 to this side. It is equal, balanced. When it is 7 point scale, 4 is in the middle, and 3 1 2 3 is on the other side, and 4 5 6 7 is on the other side. So such way you can create a balanced scale, and the scale should always be balanced. That is one of the feature, because the neutrality should function. Then only you can use good tests also. So when you structure questionnaires using Likert scale, these are your normal queries. One time, sometimes we ask for the frequency of usage. You can start with always to never. If you're asking about quality, you can start with excellent to very poor. Asking about intensity, you can start from severe to none. Agreement, we know. Approval, strongly approve to strongly disapprove. Awareness, extremely aware to not at all aware. And why awareness is not a dichotomous question? Dichotomous means just with just two options, yes and no, or some others, aware and unaware. Dichotomous. But the problem is that there is a difference in the degree of awareness also. I am aware of Amos, but my level of awareness need not be similar with an expert in Amos. With an expert, I am aware of R. My level of awareness need not be the same with an expert in R. Like that, difference in degrees of awareness are there. So that is why it is also better that we ask it in a 5-point scale. Extremely aware to not at all aware. Importance, extremely important to not at all important. Familiarity, extremely familiar to not at all familiar. Satisfaction, completely satisfied to not at all satisfied. Performance, far above the standards to far below the standards. As you can see, all the neutral values are in the middle with 3 point in a 5-point scale. So this is how you should construct a 5-point question. There is yet another method, actually 2 more methods. Semantic differentials. This can function as good as a Likert scale because it is a bipolar adjective. Highest negative on one side and the highest positive on the other side with opposite meanings. So a semantic scale also can be prepared for 3 categories. One is for evaluation, second is for potency, and third is for activity. Like anyway, these are adjectives with opposite meanings. Evaluation can be like positive to negative. Potency can be from cruel to kind. Activity can be from active to passive, etc. What happens is it is bipolar adjectives. So when it is given 5-point evaluation, it will function as good as a Likert scale. You can summate it to find the answers. Staple scale is also there, but the problem is that it do not have a 0 and it is unipolar. You give either a positive response or a negative response and you have to take a position. You can agree to it, you can disagree to it. You are compelled to take a position. In Likert scale, you are not compelled. You can always take a neutral position. So staple scale is not that good, but still we should discuss about it. And what are the types of questions that we frame in an online questionnaire? Of course, because since nowadays we are using an online questionnaire also. So basically, as I said, rating scale questions will be used. Likert scale will be used. Checkbox questions. Checkbox means it is not a radio button or a circle. It is a square button, which means it can accommodate more than one answers. When it's a radio button or a circle, it can accommodate only one answer. When it's a checkbox, it can accommodate more than one answers. And you will also be using some metrics questions. And I will illustrate the same. Of course, you are very familiar to that, but still I will illustrate so that I can show one more additional option to that. Then you will be adding some open-ended question. Drop-down question can be if needed, but that is not normally done in a research, but in a normal registration forms. Then regarding open-ended questions, sometimes you may be asked, you may be forced to ask some open-ended questions, but as you know, open-ended questions are very difficult to analyze. So as far as possible, give closed-ended questions. Demographic questions will be asked, ranking questions will be asked, and other designer options can also be there, like image choice, click map, etc. But these are in the SurveyMonkey and other platforms, but not real. Sometimes not in real research. In our research kind of data, we look for the Likert scale and metrics and even checkbox. So let us illustrate designing a questionnaire for a research problem. An example I always take is a very simple example. This example is very close to me is because uh, it was done with a student outside my college. So the student was doing a post graduation in another college, but wanted to collaborate for a work, and I worked with her. And interestingly, with a very small sample, we got a normal data, and we could use the parametric tools also. But anyway, we find this topic. It's a very simple topic. Do the celebrity endorsements create purchase intention? Normally, that's our basic. Always we talk about celebrity endorsements, and we watch a lot. It's a crore business, multi-crore business. And do the same actually create purchase intention, or at least a brand recall? We can evaluate. For which normally we'll frame an objective to study the influence of celebrity endorsements in purchase intention or purchase decision. So we have identified two aspects. One is the celebrity endorsement. Second is the purchase intention. So how shall I study celebrity endorsement? There are different methods. But the most common methods, when you survey literature, you will find one or two of the methods. And that is why we should survey literature. And after surveying literature, you end up with one particular method. In this example, I have ended up with Ohanian. So before getting into that, we just have some demographic data. For our purpose of the profiling, we collect the data regarding gender, age, occupation, education, region, etc. You can go up to whatever level you need. If you need more data, you can go more. Otherwise, you can limit. But it is always better that we limit, because longer questionnaires do not get genuine answers. So I have adopted Ohanian's scale for measuring expertise, trustworthiness, and attractiveness of celebrity endorsers. So with this, actually, this is, as I said, this is a bipolar measurement, semantic differentials, but can be summated as good as a Likert scale. And you can ask also in a Likert scale model, as agree to disagree regarding these adjectives. That is attractive, classy, beautiful, elegant, sexy. The first 5 items measures attractiveness, the basic quality of an advertisement. The first function is always to attract. Second 5 items: dependable, honest, reliable, sincere, trustworthy, measures trustworthiness. Because when a product is advertised, you should believe the claims, right? So only if the endorser is that close to us, we have a belief on that. Then expertise. Do we really perceive an expertise for this particular endorser? That is, hello. Sir, disturbance on the. Please mute. Okay.
Muted, sir.
So E1 to E5, we can measure expertise. Even at the PhD level, there is no harm in adopting questionnaires, but we should establish the validity, that's all. but that is outside the scope of this FDP. That is outside the scope of this FDP. We will be dealing only with the basics, but still at the higher level FDPs, you should learn about validating your instrument. And to measure purchase intention, we have Shang and Yongwan measured in 3 scale items. It is one of those smallest scale I have used for illustration purpose. You can use a bigger one. I mean, with a 4 or 5 items. Normally, we say that there should be at least 3 items to ensure reliability and validity parameters. We say that. So I have used to measure celebrity endorsement. I have used Ohanian, that is 3 constructs: attractiveness, trustworthiness, and expertise. And to measure purchase intention, I have used these items. So with these measurements, I have a conceptual model now explainable. Attractiveness, trustworthiness, and expertise contributing to purchase intention. So this is the way we normally try to establish our conceptual model. We start with this model and of course, but through review. And that is where I will show you how to identify such model from reviews. Yesterday itself, I have already shown one article in Rajagiri Management Journal. Why I use Rajagiri is from people in Kerala. You should be reading our prestigious journal from Kerala itself. We have a journal from IAM, journal from SCMS. Okay, I go for issue. I had seen a beautiful topic for my students' project: emotional brand attachment and brand love. So I'm just zooming so that you can watch better. So in presenting the review itself, you can see that the review is highlighted always. Citations are also highlighted. Now, a review of literature and a theoretical discussion. Thematically, the review is presented. Brand satisfaction, it is presented. Then emotional brand attachment, it is presented. It is never that old chronological listing of such blah blah blah. X said like this, Y said like this. It is not that. Brand love, brand loyalty. Then the distinction between brand attachment and brand love. I mean the different constructs that they want to establish. And the research model is presented. They present a graphical model. We can look into that. Based on each items, yes, here is the model. In this model, you can say that they have 6 hypotheses. Brand satisfaction leads to emotional brand attachment. Brand attachment leads to brand loyalty. And there is a mediation role also. Brand satisfaction leads to brand loyalty. Brand satisfaction leads to brand love, and brand love leads to brand loyalty, and again a mediating role, testing, and without mediation also directly going to brand loyalty. So this is how you can frame a model, conceptual model. And again, how can I measure these things? Thanks to the authors, I should say, thanks to the authors and the publishers. Only very few authors and publishers. I mean, authors will not be hiding it, but some publishers really hide the scale items. Thanks to Rajagiri Journal and the authors, they have not hidden the scale items. Just come down to the bottom of the article, you have the scale items here. They are mentioning which are all these scale items which has been used to evaluate. Brand satisfaction has been used from Lame and Shankar and Low and Lee. The scale items are here. As I said, A1 to A5, they are stating it as BS1 to BS6, 6 items. In emotional attachment, EBA, they have 1 to 5. It is from Thompson et al. And Muller et al., etc. Brand love, again adapted from, these are adapted, not adopted. Means they have clubbed together. This is like that. There are 2 authors, right? 2 papers. So which means they have taken their interested ones, that's all. But you can just adopt. For a student project, I'd recommend adopting. You need not adapt. You just adopt this particular author, cite this author, and you can adopt it. And brand love, 8 statements. Brand loyalty, 4 statements. So like this, you can get it. Okay, let us also look into some simpler versions, like conceptual models, like simple versions. Let me open the files. Files are getting open. Yes. So this is, yesterday I told you about the financial well-being. So this was our paper regarding financial well-being presented at that international conference. So we had a conceptual model of this. Social comparison, overt materialism, non-materialistic values leading to financial well-being, which is also influenced by income security. Again, we just adopted it from Chatterjee et al. Being a student paper, this is more than enough. And you can find these kind of items, and if you add one more item, it becomes your model. Simply deleting one item will not make it your model. It is again their model. I am quoting Dr. S. Ravanan, Dr. Ravanan sir, who always talks about that. Whenever you try to, some people copy SEM models. So when he says that simply removing one variable will not make it yours, but adding one we can make it yours. So try to add one by literature. So same way, let me illustrate. I just get into Google and I want to check whether, as I said, I told you that by celebrity endorsement I have used this. So I'm just checking celebrity endorsement SEM in Google, and I'm just checking images. I'll be getting different models, right? I'll be getting different models. Yes, this is something similar to what I had explained. Actually, it is attractiveness, trustworthiness, expertise, leading to total endorsement and then purchase intention. I should not be wasting your time in loading this. That's right. Yes. The same model. In between, they have put the summated value, celebrity endorsement. I didn't put it, that's all. Then otherwise, you can add further. Like if you want to add furthermore, attractiveness of celebrity endorser can be compared against the ad recall as well as purchase intention. Again, credibility, that is the trustworthiness, can be also be again related to ad recall as well as purchase intention. This is yet another model. Again, this kind of models has to be developed. That is our basic purpose. let me explain one more. This is again, I think, financial satisfaction. One of yet another one important area nowadays being researched upon. This is a student have done that tabular form of review. I'm happy that Neha is learning this very quickly. But we had only in this actually we had only one. We didn't have any more. We just measured satisfaction and associated it with the different categorical values. So we don't have a real relationship variable is not there. We just measured everything and connected it with satisfaction. That's all. So that's why I didn't draw the data. Only two items were there: financial satisfaction and happiness. That was connected because that conference was on economics of happiness and welfare. So I connected with financial satisfaction and happiness. Then one more, if I check into antecedents, I have told you. Financial fragility, yet another topic, very important topic. We can people should work on this kind of topics. Financial fragility, again another measure that is measured using this table. Actually it is not like this. The question was, people were asked whether when you need suppose 1 lakh rupees immediate requirement, what would you do? Use the money in your account, or borrow from your friends, borrow from a banker, or other sources? These are the answers. If the answer is use your money from your account, then you are not fragile. But if you are using other methods, that is borrowings or depending upon others, then you are fragile. So more people are fragile because why? Because we don't have a proper financial investments and proper planning, financial planning. So fragility is increasing. So we can study about fragility and make out dealings and connect it with the financial well-being. So like this also it can be done. So as a final stage, 3 more minutes I will put it, because this is an area where people might have more questions to ask. So I will be presenting it on for only 45 minutes. So let me have Google form also illustrated. Illustrating a form is not required for teachers, but still why I am putting it is because there is a question like rank questions, right? So this is the question that I showed you. Celebrity endorsements by sport persons or celebrities, whatever. I don't know if this is a question on purchase intention. Okay. So 15 statements, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I say which is 5, which is 4, that should be mentioned to the people. Then it is easy. Purchase intention, 3 statements. And I just asked which is the favorite celebrities from Bollywood they prefer. So it is 7 options are given and 7 ranks are given. But when you ask such a question, a ranking question, you should ensure that 2 things. 1, there should be a response in each row. Second, you should see that limited to 1 response per column, which means same rank cannot be allocated. That's a very important option. Otherwise, you will have a data with the same rank for many people. So if you're asking for preference, you should not be allowing the person to give the same rank to different people. If you do that, your results will not be fruitful. But when they are compelled to make a choice, they will make a choice and we can analyze. So limited to 1 response is an important option to be used there. With that data, you can again further proceed. And this is a multiple choice grid question, wherein I give the row item here and call item here. This is a basic question, multiple choice question, just 1 question and closed-ended answers. Age is also same. And if you want to ask about awareness, if you, for example, source of awareness of advertisements, etc., that will be a checkbox question. Why? Because there can be more sources. Rating scale question can also be used. For example, let me illustrate. This is a rating. Suppose I am putting it in a rating scale that is called as a linear scale. You can, as I said, the bipolar items can be given. I'm putting it as an example. At the one value, extreme negative, and 5 should be extreme positive. So that we normally, the higher value is better. That is our basic communication. If you put it like this, this should be the appearance of such a rating question. You can have such similar rating questions also. For these kind of items, use Google Forms, and student projects can be, even whatever your PhD itself can be, data can be collected very easily. But the problem is that you have a lot of constructs to be measured, and the time taken to measure those constructs properly is the issue. We have again another issue, practical issue regarding Google Forms, is that you don't really get genuine data. And in between, a scholar from Cochin University of Science and Technology was clever enough. She used, during this question, suppose there are these kind of questions, in between, in middle, she made a statement. And she said that if you are reading this, mark it as strongly disagree. That was the question. So, if the person was simply, anyway, it was received in a group, I should answer. That way, if you are answering, you might not be reading the options. You might be simply going random through the buttons, and this fellow can easily understand whether it was randomly done or genuinely done. So such a very tricky question was introduced in Google Form. I found it very useful because you can avoid junk data. Often in Google Forms, the problem is that genuine data is very tough to get. And again, there is a problem. There's this can be said as an ethical issue. My friend working with aided college, she was doing research in area of finance, but again wanted to collect data. She sent me the Google form, which is very lengthy, and asked me to compel my female friends, because it was surveyed among females, my female friends to collect the data. I said, why not? No problem. But I just let me ask you one question. Have you filled the form which was shared yesterday in our group? I mean, we had an what you call professional association. In that association, there was a request from this scholar. As I said, from the scholar from Cochin University, it was shared. Have you filled that particular form? No, I didn't get time. Yes, that is, so you should expect the same thing from others. Only if you are finding time for others, others will also find time for you. So that is the best example and best advice I can give you regarding data collection point of view. You might be serious about your work, but please don't expect everyone to be serious about your data collection, because you should be having such empathy when you are filling the data of others also. So as we say, normally say that when we do good things come back to us also. So when you are cooperating with others' works, you will also be cooperated by others. So I hope you will be cooperating with the data collection efforts genuinely by your fellow mates, and also re-supported by others in your pursuits. I'm closing my session for today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Vineet, sir, for the interesting lecture. Thank you, sir. Now the platform is open for discussion. Dear participants, if you have any queries, today sir has explained about measurement, scaling, etc. So, dear participants, if you have any queries, you can unmute and ask. Dr. Vinesh sir has put a question. Is it due to bias? I think about the measurement. Sorry, using Google Form. Is it due to bias?
By that time, no, bias may also be there, because as I said, the problem is in the response rate. Bias will also, but more than bias, what happens is our the participants' interest in filling up the same. Bias is always there in any kind of survey. Bias is always there, not from the part of researcher, but from the part of the respondent.
Okay, Vinesh sir. I think your question is answered. Okay, thank you. Any more question? Dear participants, if you want to ask any questions, otherwise we can conclude.
For tomorrow's session, I will be illustrating an open source software called Jamovi. So for that purpose, I'll be sharing a Google form to illustrate the analysis part itself. For, as I said, this is for beginners. So that beginner level works, basic parametric procedures and non-parametric procedures will be done. So a questionnaire will be shared across. Please cooperate with the survey.
Sure, sir, we have
Yes, sir.
we have feedbacks.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry, sir. I was watching the live on YouTube. I'll just introduce myself. My name is Jairam Narayanan. I'm working as a guest faculty in Sri Shankara Vidyapeetham College in Commerce Department. As a person who is about to start research and all, I think your session was really informative, and everything was explained in a very simple manner. Even a fresher like me could understand it really well. Thank you, sir, for conducting such a wonderful session. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, sir, for your feedback. Now, let me invite Srimati Srikala Sharma to propose vote of thanks for this session.
Good evening, all. We have been fortunate enough to have a renowned academician like Dr. Vineet KM, who has explained the different types of scales with examples, different types of questions which can be set in the questionnaire, and all the things he have explained in a simple manner. And on behalf of the IQAC Research Committee of SSV College and all participants, I convey our gratitude and sincere thanks to Dr. Vineet KM for the excellent session. We are also deeply indebted and thankful to all the participants for having taken their time out and to be with us this evening. Once again, thank you all.
So, Masha, there is a question from Dr. Vinesh. What
Yes,
kind
sir.
of statistical tool we have to use for questionnaire analysis? I didn't actually get the question, and I didn't understand the question, but still, if you are looking for the reliability and all, that will be explained tomorrow. Tools and techniques will be discussed tomorrow, with the basic procedures. Basic parametric and non-parametric procedure will be explained tomorrow. I hope it can be served tomorrow.
Thank you, Vineet, sir.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Okay, we will meet tomorrow, same time, 6 p.m. onwards. Please join by 5:50. Before that, sir will, sir,
I will send the questionnaire by today, preferably today itself. It can be shared in the group.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay.
അന്നേരം